Wednesday Lunch and Learn. My name is Ginny Costello, Member Services Manager with IHA. Today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our presenter, Ashley Breitner. Ashley is the Business Unit Manager of the NSF International Consumer Products and Non-Food Compounds Program. Ashley has worked at NSF International for 7 years and oversees all aspects of NSF's Consumer Product Certification Program. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Ashley.
Thank you, Ginny. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for attending the webinar this afternoon. I hopefully will be able to give you some great information as you either sit there and eat lunch, or maybe you're still finishing up your morning coffee if you're on the West Coast. So today we're going to talk about retail and product safety compliance and certification. I'd like to start out by giving you just a little introduction to NSF International. Some of you may be very familiar with us. You may work with us already and have products certified through our many different divisions. But I'll give you a little bit of background because I think that will really help you to understand our perspective and where we're coming from in the presentation today. We'll then get into some of the details of the retail testing and compliance landscape, followed by a lot of detail about product certification. So product certification is the core around what we do a lot here at NSF. We'll go into the need for certification, the process behind it, and the benefits of it. And then we'll wrap up by giving you a list of available resources to give you more information about retail testing landscape and product certification. And we'll close by giving you an introduction as to how NSF supports our mark, whether it be in a commercial setting, a retail setting, and drives the support of the certification mark that you may hold on your products or you may see as you're shopping or have interest in holding on your products. So I'd like you to start out by asking yourself a few questions. Have you ever had a product fail retail testing, resulting in delayed shipping dates? Have you been concerned about what's really happening in your supply chain? So you may not own the factory where your products are produced, but have you been concerned about what's going on there when your eyes and ears are not there all the time? And have you struggled with complicated and changing regulations and retail testing requirements? So these are common things that we hear in the industry very often at NSF. And my goal today is hopefully to offer you some solutions and give you some ideas as to how you can be able to better answer these questions when they come up. So let's start out with a little bit about who is NSF. NSF International is an independent, not-for-profit, non-governmental public health and safety organization. So while you'll hear me talk a lot today about testing, compliance, certification services, at the end of the day, we are a public health and safety company. We're not your typical third-party test lab. Our goal and our mission is what our employees here every day come to work to support. And in every action that we do, every business that we offer, every involvement that we have in the industry, goes to support the mission of improving and protecting public health and safety, which you'll see through what I explained for the consumer products realm also. We carry out this mission in a variety of different ways. We're a national consensus standard developer for many different industry sectors, such as food, drinking water, indoor air quality, dietary supplements, and consumer products. Once we are involved or we lead the development of these standards, we typically have certification or verification programs around these standards to certify products to. We do a variety and have a very large audit division where we have auditors all over the world, as you'll see in one of the upcoming slides here, to conduct audits or inspections at the drop of a hat. We also develop sustainability solutions. We are an ISO registrar, and we have in-depth development and training and education programs here at NSF. So those training opportunities range from educating consumers about new things coming out in the industry, to our client base, to regulators and retailers alike. We were founded in 1944, actually in the basement of the University of Michigan School of Public Health, back when there were no existing standards out there for commercial food equipment. So back when in the early 50s, when more and more people started going out to restaurants to eat, there's a variety of requirements in place for the equipment used in the restaurants based on where they were located and what jurisdiction they were under. NSF was really founded originally to develop known consensus standards that would then be carried across the industry. As you'll see too, we've expanded beyond food safety into many different sectors in an upcoming slide. But today we're known as NSF International, no longer the National Sanitation Foundation, because we are not national. We're a globally international company now. Our headquarters is in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I am speaking from today. And we have nearly 50 different office locations worldwide. Our goal here at NSF is to bring industry, regulators, and consumers together. So in developing standards, having a one-sided standard where all stakeholders are not involved, at the end of the day is not going to prove beneficial to anyone. Our goal at NSF is to pull all applicable stakeholders together to create a common set of ground that products and services should be evaluated to. We have 6 core divisions. Most of what we'll talk about today falls into the Consumer Products Division. Also very prominent from where our basis came from are the Food Safety and Water Quality divisions. And more recently, we have our Sustainability, Quality Systems, and Health Sciences divisions. This is just a quick snapshot of the sampling of some of our clients. As you can see, many of these clients are in many different sectors, ranging from very large to very small. So we range with all those different sectors that I just showed on the previous slide in many different industries and in what we're doing to protect and improve public health. The numbers on this slide are actually growing on a fairly daily basis. As we acquire new companies, new laboratories, new locations, we have over 1,400 experienced professionals here at NSF. It's a great place to live and work, as every person you talk to is very educated in their particular field. So whether it be a microbiologist, a chemist, an engineer, we have those experts on staff to help support our mission and what we're trying to accomplish here. In addition, we have state-of-the-art laboratories in the U.S., Europe, South America, and China. Plus, we have many different partner labs that we work with all over the world. And last but not least, we have an internal innovative information technology capabilities to really build platforms to assist our clients, no matter what industry they're in, and having more beneficial information IT tools to launch services and help them to deliver from the public health and safety sector. This is just a very quick depiction of where we are located all over the world. You'll see some of them are office locations only, some of them are laboratory locations, and some of them are our partners, whether it be an auditing firm, a secondary laboratory or in office-based location. So as Ginny mentioned, I am Ashley Breitner. I manage our food safety product certification. So this entails consumer products, our non-food compounds program, which for any of you, if you think of a food production facility, the easiest way to know what that is just think of all the chemicals, cleaners, greases, water treatment chemicals that could possibly be used in a food production facility. Those fall under that non-food compounds program. Our electrical safety certification and food contact regulatory compliance divisions are also under my responsibility. I oversee the day-to-day global operations of these, but my main goal is working with our project managers that support you as consumer products manufacturers in getting certification, getting testing services, or whatever it may be that we can do to help to support you. So while our main focus today will be on certification services, I want to start out by talking about the retail compliance landscape today. As many of you know, when you try to sell into retailers, you're often faced with different requirements, different protocols, and different timelines. While the ultimate goal to streamline these differences should be certification, as you'll hopefully see here and in a few upcoming slides, the landscape is and can be complicated to navigate. If we look at the next slide here, here is just some of the menu options of services that we as NSF alone offer to meet the needs of the retail compliance landscape. So we have everything within the realm here of material compliance in terms of looking for heavy metals in packaging, heavy metals in food zones on products that come into contact with food, regulatory compliance for materials, specific performance types of tests. So this can be from the beginning of the R&D cycle all the way to the end final product being sold on the retail shelf. Packaging and labeling reviews, looking at the integrity of the packaging, looking at the labeling for regulatory requirements, depending on what country you're selling into. Then, in addition, if you look beyond just the basic product compliance, there is the audit and inspection element that many retailers require today. This can be from pre-shipment inspections to manufacturer-specific audits, retail-specific audits, good manufacturing practice audits. There's more and more that is being added to this list on a daily basis, and I'm sure all of you are very aware of that as you try to sell into each individual retailer. So as you can see, NSF covers a broad range of these services, and while our goal is, as you'll see here today, is to create certification as kind of a one-stop shop for retail compliance, this is reality here for retail compliance landscape. There is a menu of different options that each retailer today is specifying and is not consistent across the board for consumer products. So while today you may need a variety of these different services to meet each retailer's needs, wouldn't it be nice to just have one transparent plan to move forward on? So I'm sure you're all saying yes, it'd be great. It'd be great to have one plan, but is this really reality? To piggyback off the claims testing services that NSF has capabilities of, in the previous menu options, one of the major focuses of retailers due to regulations and consumer perception is detailed claims verification and validation. As you know, as manufacturers, a claim you make on a product today isn't something that should be tested as a snapshot in time, because as your suppliers or your designs change, that claim then in turn can become affected. And really the original data you had to support that claim may be invalid. So at NSF, we take a different approach for claims validation. We can do snapshot in time testing, but from a retail perspective, what we try to support most is consumer product claims validation certifications. So we've taken that into consideration in the design of a specific certification program to certify claims that you'll see here. So whether it be lead-free, PFOA-free, phthalate-free, whatever it may be that you need to or choose to claim compliance for on your products, our goal is to ultimately certify that claim, not just validate it. So with any certification program here at NSF, it's not just testing or formulary review to determine that it is free of these specific claims, but there is a variety of ways that we also administer annual surveillance for these claims. So if your suppliers change, if you make changes or modifications to the product that affect these claims, we will be notified of them, we will revalidate them, and we will make sure that we are being caught aware of them, whether it's through an audit, through continuous testing, or other mechanisms that we use for continued surveillance. Also, with these claim certifications, our goal here at NSF is not to just give you data to report to your retailer, but it's also to support that claim. So our trusted NSF mark in the marketplace goes behind supporting those certification claims. In addition to claims validation, working with a trusted lab from the beginning of the R&D cycle can be critical to streamlining your design to shelf time and also your expense that goes along with it. What we find is as we work with many of the manufacturers to begin the certification process that we'll talk about coming up here, they start to trust and develop and realize the understanding and development that we have here at NSF for their products and what the retailers need and what the retailers are looking for in terms of compliance for your products. So we work way back at the beginning of the process, the R&D process of developing your products, not necessarily just at the end of the product life cycle before it's going to go to the retailer. So one other final critical element of the retail landscape is what's happening in the annual production facility, whether it's pre or post shipment inspections or audits, whether they're evaluating the production process, the sourcing, the employee integrity. Each retailer, again, typically has their own requirements and protocols for these eyes and ears inside your production facilities, whether they are wholly owned by your company or they are contract facilities. But with feet on the ground all over the world, as you can see from the map that I showed you earlier, companies like NSF are able to execute these services at the drop of a hat. So you'll see here just a few of the basic quick examples of inspections, on-site production facility testing taking place. So to get now into, we've talked about the menu of services that retailers require and the requirements for each of the retailers for compliance. But what if there was one transparent option to satisfy all these needs? Our answer to this is product certification. Again, ask yourself, have you ever had a product fail retail testing, resulting in delayed shipments? Our answer for this is the Home Product Certification program here at NSF. It establishes clear, transparent, and engaging requirements all the way from the beginning of the design phase for these products. So if your product is going to fail retail testing, it is not going to come to you as a surprise as soon as, or at the end of your testing cycle and 2 days before you're ready to ship your product. It's going to come to light way back at the beginning of the process. Have you ever been concerned about a product's quality or safety? Our answer here at NSF is the Home Product Certification Program is a comprehensive approach including initial testing, facility audits, and marketplace sampling. So again, it's a full comprehensive approach. It's a full circle approach to evaluating the product. It's not just a snapshot in time. And if you've ever struggled with complicated and changing regulations, our goal here, in addition to serving public health and safety, is to make sure that you have the best and highest level of customer service possible. So we make sure that you have a dedicated team, a dedicated project manager to work with directly to get your product through the certification process. The team here also works on a regular basis to monitor regulations and make sure that our protocols are kept current with all most current regulatory requirements. So in the next slide, I have some interesting data. This shows consumer preference for an NSF certified product over a period of time. So you'll see that from 2006 to 2008 to 2012, and we should be issuing another survey here by the end of the year, the data is trending upward in terms of product preference from consumers for products that bear the mark versus those that do not. In addition to preference, the question we ask when we administer this consumer survey is, how much more would you be willing to pay for a product that is independently tested and certified or has a seal of approval on it? You can see here also that 83% of consumers are willing to spend more on certified products than those that bear no certification. Nearly 25% are willing to spend at least 5% more, and 8% are willing to spend between 10 to 20% more on products just to bear this additional mark. So why did we develop the Home Product Certification Program? About 5-6 years ago now, we started to hear more and more of the trends in the industry in terms of retailer issues. We were hearing about product quality and regulatory compliance concerns, that their QA staff was just bogged down between recalls and returns. The buyers were determining different testing requirements, not the QA staff at a corporate level. On the flip side, we were also hearing about vendor issues. So there was varied retail testing requirements. There were multiple test labs that the vendors were being sent to depending on what retailer they needed to go to. The test data was not transparent, so it was not reproducible throughout their R&D cycle. So again, on day 2 days from shipment, they were finding tons of failures, and it was really creating a delayed time to market. Our goal, listening to all these things in the industry, was to create a program that had standardized requirements, was household-based, consensus-driven, it had transparent requirements, and it increased the speed to market, not slowed it down. So as I mentioned earlier, NSF is an accredited standards developer. For this program, though, we do not work off specific industry standards. We work off developed protocols. In these protocols, we use a consensus-based process, In moving through that process, we start out by determining the scope. Right now I think we have close to 20 different protocols that are product specific, specifically for all home use type products, and I'll show you a list of what those are here in a minute. We determine the scope of really what's included for that particular product type, and if there are any limitations or exclusions. Our next step then is research and development. So we look at, are there applicable standards or regulations that already exist? Why reinvent the wheel on a particular test if there's something out there that's already sufficient? We look for product recalls and consumer reviews to really see what are the issues with this particular type of product. And we work with our engineering, chemistry, microbiology labs to evaluate known failure modes and risks of these products. Once we've done the research, we develop test methods and we evaluate them for consistency and clarity. We generate an initial draft of the protocol and send it out to a stakeholder review panel. So this includes everything from manufacturers of these types of products to regulators that may have stake in these types of products to retailers to manufacturers that are looking to get into developing these types of products. We include all stakeholders that we possibly can. We accept any feedback from them, make revisions to the protocol as necessary, and then we send it out one more time, hopefully, for final balloting and approval. The protocols are evaluated on an annual basis, so they're sent out to the review panel to gain any additional feedback or have any modifications made to them. We use a protocol development process for this certification program because we realize that the consumer product landscape is changing every single day. So to have a document that may take years to develop, as many of the standards do out in the market, and it can be rigid to modify, isn't going to work for the consumer products sector, because with new technologies coming out every day, we need to be able to modify these protocols, send them to the stakeholders on the drop of the dime often as technology is changing. So this allows for a more fluent update process to these transparent requirements. Each of the protocols has basically 4 different key sections. We have the physical evaluation section where we're testing and doing documentation reviews to look for things like volume and capacity requirements against what's claimed. There's no sharp edges and sharp points that's going to possibly harm a consumer. And the general construction of the product is sufficient. Then we get into the performance aspect. So the performance aspect of each protocol is where it varies the most. It varies most because every product that we evaluate and every protocol we have that's product specific is going to be very different. So in some instances where there's a product that has a handle, we may be looking for handle strength, handle torque, handle temperature. So this may be something like a cooking pot, where if we're evaluating a corded home textile or a heated textile, we're not going to be looking for those things. We're going to be looking for other elements, such as the bleedability of the particular textile that it's made of. Or if we're looking at a coffee mug, we may be looking for dishwasher durability based on if it's a dishwasher safe claimed product. So each protocol is designed specifically for that product, for the performance elements of that type of product. Next, we have the material safety section. So here we are looking at the materials that are typically considered in the food zone of the product. So they're materials or parts of the product intended to come into contact with food. it's region specific, so we do look at different regulatory requirements depending on what countries the product's intended to be sold into. But in addition, across the board, for all food zone parts, the protocol requirements are no BPA, no phthalates, no added heavy metals, and we do in-use extraction testing to validate this specific these types of material extractions. The last part of the protocol always is the packaging compliance. So, as I mentioned earlier briefly, for packaging compliance, we may be looking at the exterior actual artwork on the packaging for regulatory compliance requirements. We may be making sure that the UPC code even scans, as that's one issue that retailers brought to our concern. It seems silly, but a lot of times they would even get products in on their shelf and the UPC code wouldn't even work because of the clarity of it. We check for the NSF mark, make sure it's being used appropriately and applicably. We would also check any type of internal packaging to make sure there's specific warning labels on plastic bags, the net contents on the packaging is accurate, and that the packaging is effective. So the certification process itself, if any of you are familiar with certification, across the board, it follows a very general pattern. The manufacturer would come to us typically and apply for certification. They would then submit product and detailed information about the product itself, whether that be a food zone materials list, a bill of materials, whatever it may be that we need and we require for that product type. We would do any review of the documentation or testing that's necessary and transparent in each one of those protocols. Assuming the product passes, we would then grant certification. So at that point, the NSF mark is allowed to be used on the packaging or the product itself that's being sold to consumers. Annually thereafter, we do monitoring, because this is a certification program. It's not a snapshot in time, where we do an annual production facility audit. And the other monitoring mechanism for this program in particular is if a product is still on the shelf 18 months after we grant certification, we do have the ability to pull that product from the shelf at any time after that 18 months and do some applicable spot testing of the actual product from the shelf. What we find is many of these products, you guys are on to a different SKU, different model, design by that 18-month point. So a lot of times we're not even getting to that or needing to do that pull because we're moving on into testing and certifying a new different model for you. So if we go through the certification process just in a little bit more detail, step one is a document review. So we look at the product information form, we look at the bill of materials, we look at what countries you're selling the product into. Next, we're going to perform any type of performance or chemical testing that's necessary and is specified in the protocols. We're going to check for labeling and claims reviews. So part of each protocol also is if the product makes claims, the packaging makes claims, that we need validation for those claims in order for us to certify the product. And annually thereafter, we will do our annual surveillance in the form of a facility audit, where the auditor will verify, it's a pretty basic audit, but it will verify that the product that we certified on day one is the one that's running through that production line every single time. So they'll look at documentation, they'll look at production and facility records to make sure that the suppliers, that the materials that we have documented as the certified product is what's being used in that production facility. They'll also make sure that the NSF mark is being used applicably and only for products that are actually certified. So here's a list of our existing protocols for this certification program. You can see the product range for these protocols is quite wide, from food storage containers to cookware, to servingware, to vacuum sealers, to toasters, to fans, and weight scales. So this list is growing. As new technologies are coming out, new hot products are coming into the market, we are in the process of developing new protocols, but these are the ones that exist and are published today. So to talk next about the benefits of certification. So as you can see probably from a little bit of what I've talked about already, the benefit of certification often is that it offers a trusted safety mark for consumers. It's really a differentiator on the product shelf. So if there is a coffee pot sitting on the shelf next to another coffee pot, and one of them has that trusted NSF mark on it and one of them does not, the preference is to purchase the one with the mark. In addition, it provides brand protection and assurance of product quality. So this is coming from you, once your product's certified, you have NSF also, and you have the NSF data, the NSF reputation, the NSF team to support you in protecting your brand in addition to your company. Our protocols are all backed by a technical panel and team, not only in the development but also in the testing process. It streamlines traditional third-party testing by reducing time spent investigating regulatory compliance issues, because you should be able to trust NSF and go to NSF for them. We help you in troubleshooting the design and sourcing issues. So again, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, often as we work with our certifying clients, they begin to trust in us much further upstream than typical end third-party testing. So we're often involved in their R&D process where they're running their products through a variety of the tests and the protocols pre-certification, so that they know beforehand if their product is going to or should in theory comply with requirements, and there won't be any surprises at the end. The turnaround time for this certification program is very quick in comparison to many certification programs. Our testing turnaround time is 15 business days, and total certification in general takes 3 to 4 weeks at the most. We realize that for the consumer products industry, we can't have a very long certification cycle, so this time and speed to market is really critical. Also, you have the support of NSF in resolving marketplace issues and problems should any issues arise with your product or as you're working with retailers. And also at NSF we have, and I'll show you here in an upcoming slide, an online listing and resource for consumers, retailers, or whoever it may be, that they can go to our website at any time and view all certified products. Any product NSF certified is listed on this public database. This is just a quick snapshot of some of the brands that we certify today in the Home Products program. Certification, in all reality, should be the ultimate goal of compliance for your products. And the menu of needs that retailers can have can be started to be satisfied at the most basic levels, and will then work towards the ultimate goal of certification. So you can see in that menu of options that I provided at the beginning, by beginning to work through on some of those menu of options that the retailers require with us, will ultimately put your product on the right track to becoming certified. So in terms of resources available to you as manufacturers, at NSF, we are more than happy to anyone interested in possibly certifying their products to talk with you about our protocols, to show you our protocols, to discuss any of the testing requirements. We also have a quick reference sheet for the protocols that kind of give you a basic outline of each one of the protocols, so you have a general idea of what's in them, in addition to actual copies of the protocols. As I mentioned, customer service is top of mind here, so you have your dedicated contacts that you can call. Field calls at my desk all day long, along with the rest of my project management team and our business development team. We have a use of the NSF Mark Guide, so it gives you guidance in terms of not only how to use the mark, but ideas in terms of how you can better market that mark. So whether it be in advertisements, in booth displays at trade shows, and whatnot. Pricing information, we're very open with what it costs for certification. We do have an HPC or Home Product Certification overview from a retail perspective. So not only are we talking with you as manufacturers, but we are often in discussions and in meetings with retailers directly, educating them on the value of the program and working with them to accept and specify Home Product Certification program. We have a guide for their buyers also. So as we mentioned, one of the disconnects that we heard a lot about was between the QA team and the buying teams. So not only do we have documents designed to explain the program at a QA or a retail, high-level retail perspective, but also at a retail buyer perspective. So as manufacturers, how can you take advantage? Feel free to contact us directly if you have any questions or any needs. Refer your suppliers to understand the requirements of certification and retail testing so that further upstream they are getting you what you need to create a compliant product. Make NSF aware of your future needs. If you have some really exciting R&D project going on and you're going to need some validation testing or whatever it may be, make us aware of that. We'll do whatever we can to help you to support those claims or that process. And think of NSF as your public health and safety resource. Whether it's product issues or special testing, all of it can be assisted by NSF. So finally, just to wrap up here real quickly, we want to talk about how do we put our mark behind certified product. So it's important for us not only to allow the mark to be put on the product as products are certified, but what do we do to support the mark and get the mark out there in the industry to make people aware of it. This here is a snapshot just of last year of a few of the consumer news outreach outlets that we reached out to and that we were featured on at NSF. So it may have been a brief study, it may have been a mention of an NSF study, but all of these news outlets featured NSF last year. One of the major studies that NSF did was a germ study. So we went into many different homes and evaluated the germiest places of a home. We looked at different product types from blenders to spatulas to your sink, to your sponge. That study picked up a lot of publicity, not only from a consumer protection standpoint, but also from an NSF promotion standpoint. So our goal was to educate the public, not only to educate the public, but also to help get the NSF mark out. The study was also featured on Dr. Oz. We have about 20 different eHow consumer video segments now. So these, each one of these videos is designed to educate consumers on different elements of the home and the aspects of the home. So whether it be cleaning that musty smell out of your coffee maker, to making sure that the gasket of your blender, of which many of us do not realize you need to clean, needs to be cleaned, and how to do that. We also have many resources available on our consumer resources page on our the NSF website. And here is just a quick snapshot of the public listings. So if you were to go to nsf.org, you can search very easily and quickly by clicking on that orange link in the top right corner for all the certified products we have at any program here at NSF. So again, I want you to ask yourself the 3 questions we've went through this presentation. If you've had those products fail retail testing and delay shipments, have you been concerned about what's happening in your supply chain, and have you struggled with complicated and challenging retail testing requirements? Hopefully today you'll have learned a little bit about NSF and a little bit about how our testing and certification services can help you with some of those needs that you have in selling your products into the consumer products realm. So at this time, I believe if you have any questions, please type them in the chat function, and Ginny will relay those on to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. You can also feel free to contact me directly. There's my email address, and we are happy to provide you with copies of protocols, more information about NSF and any of what we do to protect and improve public health and safety.
Okay, thank you so much, Ashley. We do have a few questions for you.
Okay.
One is, does the certification program also include compliance with California Prop 65? For instance, if a new chemical is added or new settlement arises, which affects the consumer product, will NSF inform the manufacturer of the new information?
That's a great question. So the way that we approach the Home Product Certification Program, whether it be for Prop 65 or any other material regulatory compliance requirements, is that typically when manufacturers are sending the product to us for certification, they are at the end of their product life cycle. So they already have the product design, they know what they're going to do with it, they have it ready to go on the docket and send it to the retailer. So we do not repeat regulatory compliance testing, such as Prop 65 testing in this program. We do require that the manufacturers, in order to grant certification, attest that they are compliant with the applicable regulations for whatever country of sale they're selling it into, and we talk with them about which of those are. So if they're selling into the U.S. or if they're selling into California, they would have to attest that they're compliant with Prop 65. At the production facility, we then, in the annual audit, would verify that that production facility has on file documentation to show compliance with those regulations. So we don't repeat testing, because what we found is 99% of the time when manufacturers get to us for certification specifically, they already have that testing done. So it's not something that we feel the need to repeat. We just validate that it's accurate.
Okay, great. A few more. The next one is, does NSF have offices in China?
We do. We have a few different offices in China. We also have a direct laboratory, an NSF-owned laboratory in Shanghai. And we also have a few additional partner laboratories that we work with in other cities in China.
Great. The next one is, how do you police the mark for fraud?
That's another great question, and one that comes up often. So there's many different ways that we do that. We have a compliance enforcement team here at NSF. That is literally their job, is to make sure that that mark is enforced. 75% of the time, the best way that that mark is enforced is through competitors. So as a certified client, the last thing you want is someone out on the market claiming that their product's certified when it's really not. So we very often get complaints from our current client base about other manufacturers using the mark or using it inappropriately. And our compliance team here, it's their job to follow up on any of those types of complaints until they are completely resolved. We also do marketplace surveillance in many of the programs, and are going out there and looking for the mark also. But we have a dedicated team to deal with each one of those situations.
Great. The next one is, did your program replace the major retailers' inspection audit requirements?
So in some cases, the answer is yes. We do have agreement from a handful of retailers that their inspection, their pre-shipment inspection or their audit, GMP audit requirements are waived by our, if the product is certified with NSF, our annual audit. Not all retailers, I'd like to say it is all retailers, but we do have a few of them, so if they're interested in a particular one, contact me and I'm able to give you that information.
Great. Are the protocols for fair labor compliance at factories?
So the Home Product Certification program for fair labor does not cover specifically fair labor. So it's a product certification program. We do offer fair labor audits and inspections through other business units here at NSF. But this program in particular is a product certification, so we are not looking at fair labor in the annual audit.
We have quite a few more, Ashley. So,
okay.
The next one is, how does your electrical certification compare with UL or other agencies? Is it accepted as an alternative?
It is. So NSF is a nationally recognized testing laboratory or a NERDL laboratory by OSHA, just the same as UL or CSA or any of those the marks that you see out there on the market for any types of consumer products. So it is a comparable program.
Does NSF certification satisfy retailer requirements, or is it on a case-by-case basis?
In the majority of the time, yes, it satisfies retailer requirements. There are a few retailers we are aware that may have a few additional minimal requirements above and beyond what we require, but for the most part, our protocols and our certification program, it is all-encompassing.
Great. Many people had asked too. For those of you who inquired, you can get a copy of Ashley's presentation at www.housewares.org in the Knowledge Center. If you allow about 24 hours for us to upload it, it will be there. So just to address those questions. We do have a few more for you, Ashley.
Okay.
What is the cost associated with having a product certified? Is there an annual fee to keep certification?
Yep, that's a good question. So that That question, or the answer to that question, is going to vary depending on what the product is we're talking about. So it's protocol specific, and yes, there is an annual fee to maintain certification, which typically is the audit fee and a certification listing fee. So both of those annual fees combined is typically between $500 to $1,000 maximum, just to give you an idea of ballpark annually. The bulk of the cost comes in the initial testing and certification, and that's really dependent on the product type. So I'm happy to provide a specific example of that. But the other factor that comes into that is not just the product type, but also if you have a family of products. So if you have a family of toasters and they're all very similar, just have slight differences, we are not going to evaluate each and every product individually. So there are major cost efficiencies if we can batch products, family of products together. So if you have specific examples, we are more than happy to send you over a detailed quote of each one of them.
Great. There are a few other questions in reference to pricing, which I think should be addressed to you personally, Ashley. So for those who are inquiring about pricing and comparisons of any sort, please contact Ashley, email her, and contact her directly. And I believe that is it for now. And I'd like to thank Ashley so much for all the time and support she has given IHA in preparation of this great presentation. And once again, thank you all for attending with Webinar Wednesdays with IHA and Ashley at NSF. For those of you who would like to get a copy of this, as I had said, please visit www.housewares.org in the Knowledge Center, and it will be in the webinar section. Thank you all again. Have a great week and have a good day. And thanks again, Ashley, for all that you've done for us.
Thank you.
Take care.